G'day, welcome people. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. I'm guessing many people here are in Europe or the UK. However, you could be somewhere else. If you're watching this on replay, skip ahead 4 minutes and you'll get to the start of this session. Anyone who is here live, feel free to rename yourselves for where you are in the world. I think Erika always likes to know that. If you've been to our events before, we often ask that. We've got very international people, so it's nice to know if you're in New Zealand or if you're in Singapore or Australia or wherever else. So if you can rename yourself, that's good. However, yeah, you can type in the chat as well if you want to. First session of this whole Trauma's Everyday Impact event. So what's anything anyone's particularly looking forward to either in this session or for the whole event? Obviously, everyone here has access to everything. If you're watching this on replay and want access to everything, there's the All Access Pass, which is it like $19 or something? But yeah, so feel free to type in the chat what you're looking forward to. Erika is also here. She's just gone off to... There, she's back again.
Hi, welcome everyone. Lovely to see you all. It'd be really great if you could turn your cameras on, if that's possible, just so I've got a few people that I'm actually talking to. It'd be great. Welcome everyone.
And we will say as well, we don't actually mind if you're cooking or you're walking your dog or something like that. Just seeing any sort of feedback or response or anything like that's always nice. Everyone. And we will say as well, we don't actually mind. There's me, my voice in the background as I open the live stream video as well. Double Steve. We'll start in 2 minutes, so if you need to get anything else, you want to have a wriggle or a stretch. Of course, you're always welcome to do so during the session as well, and we'll give a few safety things like that. Just as a general rule for this entire event, do take care of yourselves and move and go walk out in nature and do what you need to as well. Sometimes it can bring stuff up. How about having a shower whilst your camera on? Probably not. I mean, I'll have to just turn your video off if that's the case. Not necessarily recommended. Ay. Let me just make sure I have all my stuff ready here. Erika, I'll give you a quick little intro and I'll do some safety stuff as well, so you don't need to worry too much about that. And this is classic Erika today, about niceness. In case anyone doesn't know, Erika works with women who are too nice, generally. Anyways, check her out if you want. Check her out.
Check it out. Check it out.
That's nice. The sun's just come out, which is nice, but it's also bad because it shines right in my face in this window. How dare England be sunny, Erika?
We'll enjoy it. It'll last about 3 hours.
Welcome, Finland. Who else we got? Oh, we're on time, aren't we? So let me press record and I'll introduce you, Erika, and then let you get started. So welcome everyone to the first session of Trauma's Everyday Impact. We're with Erika here, and this session is going to be on how trauma makes you nice, so trauma and people pleasing. So in case you don't know who Erika is, she's a somatic coach, meditation teacher, and she's worked with many types of trauma, including suicide, drug and alcohol addiction, domestic violence, and ex-untouchable women in India. So she focuses on helping women who are too nice find their power. And if we're being honest, she's probably going to get really nervous teaching you some stuff. So a few little things just before we get started, and you'll hear this a lot, but we like to remind you. So first up, if you're here in the Zoom room, we'd love if you have your cameras on. So no matter what you're doing, walking the dog, cooking, lying on the couch, whatever, it's really useful for Erika to see you. And if you're watching this on replay, you can get the All Access Pass on the registration page. So we'll you'll see a link for that anyway, and then you can attend all the live sessions and see all the sessions. And one thing we'd really like to encourage everyone here to do is share this with everyone and anyone who wants to uncover the subtle ways in which trauma shows up in their lives. So we want everyone to benefit from this free event. So please do, if there's like one session that stands out for anyone, like have a think who's someone who would benefit from a session and share it with them, because we want everyone to benefit. We'll also tell you a bit more about some courses that we're offering at the end, but there's no pressure around that, and that's sort of just a chill thing for now. So if you want to check it out, you can do so. I'll post a link. But a few safety things just before we start. So first up, are you resourced now? If you're not well enough to like drive a car or anything like that, then maybe you're not well enough just to watch this now. And that's okay. Like, is watching kind to you, but you can watch on the replay if you're not in a good place right now. And also, are you better served by one-to-one therapy than sort of being here? So this is education and not therapy. So it's not designed for people who are currently in the worst of trauma. And many of the teachers have actually been there, so there's no judgment around that. But just bear in mind, you have to be robust for some of these sessions. Also, in terms of sessions, there's a heap, so don't binge watch them. There will be replays that are announced later. And if you've got access to all of them, you'll have access to all of that to just watch the replays. And if during a talk you notice like you tense up or you're agitated, space out, just move, breathe. You can always watch it later. So these sessions aren't, we'll skip that one for now. So having said all this, like this could actually be fun. So just during this, we recommend movement, good company and nature after the sessions or during the session. So I hope you enjoy this session with Erika.
Great, thank you, Steve. Welcome, everyone. Gosh, I feel so honoured to be the first speaker in this amazing event. I can't tell you. So it's a real privilege, and thank you so many of you for joining me this morning. Please forgive me. I've got a terrible cold. I'll do my best. Yeah, so being too nice. This is my trauma pattern. So I speak from my own experience of all of this, and also this is also the work that I do in the world. So as Steve said, I work with women to help them overcome this trauma pattern, which is also known as the fawn trauma pattern. So fight, flight, freeze are much more commonly known, and this fawn response is now becoming much more familiar with people. So yeah, so how does it show up in everyday life? Do you struggle to say no, to turn down a request? Do you feel responsible for other people's happiness? Do you get overwhelmed by other people's emotions or other people's experiences? Do you find yourself always being the listener in your relationships? Do you tend to listen a lot rather than divulge? Do you adapt? Are you super flexible to other people's preferences? Are you a follower rather than a leader? And do you experience a lot of fear in your relationships? Things like worrying what other people think, worrying about what other people, how other people might respond. Is any of that landing with anyone here? Anyone feeling, yeah. So that might be, yeah. If that's you, there might be a touch of fawn response going on. So come with me as well, if you feel up for it. Just lean your body forwards. Lean your body forwards in your chair and go wide and out. Put your awareness out, as though you're out to the room, out towards other people, looking around. What do other people need? What do other people want? Who do I need to be? And just notice, does this feel familiar? Does this feel a kind of familiar mode of being? I'd say for me, this is kind of the mode of fawning. It's like the awareness out towards others. What do they need? Okay. And just noticing if that does feel familiar or not. So yes, so I don't call the work that I do working with the fawn trauma pattern. I don't even call it codependency. I call it being too nice. And that's exactly what this event is about. It's like the normal ways or the everyday normal ways that these trauma patterns can show up in our lives. Yeah. But actually, this response of going out towards others, taking care of others, getting our safety from others is a response And the way that I've learned to think about it is it's a response to oppression. Yeah, it's a response to being denied access to power. And that can be, I work with women. So historically, women have been denied access to power, but it could also be in our own histories, So it could be, our patterns come from various different places. For example, ancestrally. So it could be the way in which our ancestors learned to cope with a lack of access to power. So that could be, in my example, women, but it could be any other ethnic minority, immigrant community, any other community that hasn't been the central community historically. And power being our ability to affect change, our ability to put our wishes into action, our ability to protect ourselves. So without this sort of direct access to power, we need to learn a different response to keeping safe. Sorry, I'm jumping about a bit here. Let me just ground myself. So it could be ancestrally. It could be culturally and societally. So again, in the example of women, there are certain expectations of what it means to be feminine, growing up. We come into the world, we have this full expression, we have our rage, we have our desire, we have our no very strongly, no, it's not okay, I want this. And then certain aspects of us are sort of encouraged and certain aspects of us are discouraged. And for example, with women, what it means to be feminine, what it means to be a good girl is not in that powerful state, not in that, I want this, I don't want that. We're taught to play nice, to share, to be agreeable, so that our sort of innate sense of who we are meets culture, and then that gets shaped. So it can come about in that way as well. And it can also be our own personal experience, So it could be having critical parents. It could be having an anxious parent that was really controlling. It could be having a sick parent growing up, so someone else that needed care in the home. It could be being asked to take responsibility too young. That was my story as well. So I'm raised working class. I'm raised as a woman. I have some ancestral stuff going on, but I also had to look after my younger sibling very early on. So I had to take responsibility for someone else very early on. So it can be shaped like that. Either way, in some way or another, we learned that we had to center someone else's experience. We lost access to this direct sense of this is what I want and I can influence change and I am the center. And we had to find our safety, because if we can't influence change in this direct way, we have to learn another way to get our needs met and to stay safe. And we learn that through, if I keep other people happy, if I keep other people, if I keep them getting what they need, then they will meet my needs. So we learned this sort of adaptive response to still keeping safe. Is that all making sense so far? So it's a really sophisticated, if you imagine growing up, that's a really sophisticated way of learning how to get our needs met. It's like, okay, I can't do this, I have to do something else. So we learn this other way. Oh, if I keep mum happy, or if I keep these people happy, then they meet my needs, then they look after me, then I'm safe. So it's really smart. And we all learn one or another way of coping. I don't think many of us, there might be a few unicorns out there, most of us have learned one way or another to respond, and this is just one of them. So no judgment. Okay. Either way though, we learned that we couldn't be who we were growing up. We couldn't be just who we are. That wasn't okay. So where does it start to create problems? Well, growing up, all human beings need two fundamental needs. We need to have autonomy and we need to feel that we belong. We need to be both free to be who we are and held in a container or in a community. And what we learned growing up, if you've got the fawn response, is, oh, I need to let go of my autonomy in order to belong. I need to let go of my authenticity in order to be part of the collective. Yeah. So we learn to forfeit who we are and what we really want in order to please others. Yeah. And so then what can happen over time is we lose a really strong sense of who we are and our strong sense of our own edges and boundaries, and we learn to sort of merge with others. Yeah. So we lose this healthy sense of ourselves, to the point where often we can't feel ourselves or our own wishes or our own wants, because we learn to like squash them. You know, it's super painful to have like this impulse and then not be able to meet it and then have to do something else. So we sort of learn to disconnect internally. I don't know if that rings true with anyone here. Yeah, I've got lots of nods. Yeah, exactly. And we learn to sort of, we have this collective experience of ourselves, right? This sort of, we're part of other, we define ourselves through our relationships. So we sort of merge with other people, and it can be kind of hard to feel where we end and feel our own experience. Like, oh, this is my experience. I'm not having that other person's experience. Yeah. Yeah, and there can also be quite a lot of shame. I experienced a lot of shame, still work with shame in my life, because if you imagine like your authentic self was like, here I am, this is what I want, I'm showing myself. And then for whatever reason, culturally, historically, in your own life experience, for some reason that wasn't allowed, not okay, you need to do something different. There's a sense of like, oh, I'm not okay to be who I am. And so one of the deep wounds I work with the women I work with, is like this sense of, am I even allowed to be here? Is it okay that I exist? You know, so it can have this sort of shame wounding attached to it. Like there's something wrong with us. Yeah. Yeah. And then there's just this underdeveloped sense of our ability to create our own safety, because we weren't allowed to develop it. So this sense of, I'm a powerful being, I can take care of myself, I can hold my own space, I can provide, I have the capacity and the agency to go after what I want in the world, to set boundaries around what I don't. Like I have this power to protect myself, and we sort of aren't given the chance for whatever reason to develop that. And our safety comes from keeping other people happy and safe. Yeah. And I also just think we experience a lot of fear. Anyone else here just experience a lot of fear in their lives? Like I feel a lot of fear because we're so, it's precarious, right? It's really precarious. So yeah, why is it not a great strategy? At some point in our lives, it was a really great strategy. However, basing our safety on other people, other people's moods, other people's desires and wishes, super, super unreliable. You can do the same thing on 2 different days and like please and then displease someone. Other people's moods, changeable. Other people's wishes, completely changeable. It's like we're trying to always keep safe with this shifting sand, you know? Yeah. And what it means is anything that threatens our relationships or our connection becomes really, really terrifying. So anytime like we want to disagree, say no, ask for something different, voice a preference, anything that threatens connection is super frightening, because we rely on our connections for our sense of safety. Yeah. So it might be that you start to feel like a doormat in your relationships, that you go with the flow so much and feel like you lose, that you end up doing things you don't want to do, but you didn't really even know that you didn't want to do them until halfway through. Or you might start to feel like you're not sort of in charge of your own life. You sort of are following someone else's rhythms and patterns and you're sort of fitting in. You might start to feel invisible in your friendships and relationships because you're always listening. You're sort of eliciting, because it's safer to elicit someone else and to receive them than to really make yourself known and show up and like be vulnerable. So you might start to feel like taken for granted like people always come to you. You're the one that people like voice and talk to. Like I had women that I work with who like spend a lot of time getting really great birthday presents for other people, and then people just buy them generic things, but it's because they haven't ever revealed what they love, what they really want. So people use sort of a bit of a blank canvas. Yeah. And then resentment might build up. This was definitely my experience. A feeling of living someone else's life, a feeling of not really knowing who I was, what I wanted. Yeah. And there are some health implications here. There's a really great talk by Gabor Mate around how being nice could kill you. It's like a 3-minute video, but it's sort of like, because we learn to like not listen to our own wishes and our own desires or our own needs, we can override them to the point of burnout. Again, my story as well. So yeah. So, okay, that's a lot. You're all still with me? Is it all still like yeah, okay, good. Okay, so there's no shame here. As I said earlier, it's not good, it's not good, bad, it's just conditioned. That's one of the favorite sayings of one of my Buddhist teachers. Not good, not bad, just conditioned. It was the best way we learned to respond, yeah? But it is possible to undo the embodiment of this fawn way of being, yeah? It is possible to return to ourselves, re-embody ourselves, so to differentiate, so to come back and differentiate our own experience from other people's, to re-own our inner connection with ourselves. And it is possible to relearn direct access to power. So direct access to, I am a willful being, I have my own wishes, I can act on them, it's okay for me to act on them, and to re-own a sense of I can create my own safety and withstand other people's disapproval or not meeting other people's needs. Yeah, that's totally possible. If it wasn't possible, I wouldn't be here giving this talk. Like, I wouldn't have been able to do this. The risk of getting something wrong, the risk of upsetting someone, all of that was far too strong in my life until I went through this re-embodying process, which is what I now teach. Yeah. So it's totally possible to undo the fawn response. Some really quick wins, just coming back. So coming back from leaning out towards other people, moving the body back in space, coming back to yourself, containing your own experience, yeah? And then just coming up and learning to take up a little bit more space. Those two things will really start to help and shift, yeah. It's like we also need to relearn the fight response in a way. We need to relearn a little bit of the fight response, that actually we can come back with a little bit of you know, yeah. Okay. And in doing that, we can relearn our ability to express ourselves. Okay. Okay, so then if we do that, if we learn to come back out of other people's experiences, if we learn to create safety for ourselves, reconnect deeply with ourselves, and we learn a little bit of that fight response that Mark and I are going to talk about later. And if we learn a little to, you know, I don't know, I took up karate, so something that really makes you feel powerful and able to affect change, then what are we left with? You know, because actually the fawn response has some really beautiful qualities if it's not the only tool in our toolbox, yeah? Actually, if we learn to use the fawn response, the superpowers that it has are beautiful sensitivity, like really, really beautiful sensitivity towards other people, and ability to feel what someone else is feeling, yeah? So often in my coaching, what I am doing is feeling in my body someone else's experience, because that's what I had to learn to do growing up, yeah? But I can choose to now use that like as a superpower to really come into empathy, compassion, yeah? But I can choose to do that rather than it be the only option that I have, and I can control it rather than it be overwhelming to me, yeah? The ability to read a room. I'm sure some of you walk into a room and immediately you know, okay, someone's had an argument over here, there's something going on over here. Like when we can use that consciously, that's a beautiful quality to have, yeah, to kind of know what other people need and what might have just happened, yeah. We have amazing listening skills, really like deep, full body ability to listen. That's something that we can hone and use when it's not the only choice that we have. When we also have the choice to say, hey, I think this, and I need to talk about myself for a while, or actually, can I just tell you this thing? When we can choose the other option, when we can then choose deep listening as this like beautiful quality of resonance with another human being, yeah. Yeah, and also those are the beautiful qualities that we'll be left with. And if we do this work, the hard work of coming out of the trauma response, really finding our own sense of our own differentiated self and our own power, we can teach that to others, yeah, because we've had to learn that the hard way, which is what I do, yeah. So we have this ability to call upon courage. I don't know about you, but I'm afraid all the time. That's why this running joke of like, oh, Erika will be really nervous when she teaches you. It's like, yeah, that's true. I do experience a lot of fear, but you know what? That means I have to be more courageous than a lot of people, because this isn't easy for me. So I have to hone this ability to be courageous over and over again, yeah? So that's a superpower we cultivate, yeah? And something that we can draw upon, like facing fear. Like I know what it's like to face fear because I have to do it all the time. What else do we, because we've had to consciously learn how to come back to us and feel ourselves. Like I didn't know who I was. I didn't know how to feel my internal experience. Because we have to consciously figure out how to do that, we can become great embodiment teachers or meditation teachers, or we can just really support another human being to do that because we've had to sort of figure out how we do it. It didn't come innately, yeah. And all of these skills can just be incredibly more potent because they've had to be learned in adulthood rather than it's just the way that we are, yeah. So there we go. I think we're coming up to time. That was a really fast run through the fawn response. I could talk about it for hours. That's why I've made my whole job and life about it. What would I love you to take away? The fawn response is a response to not being allowed access to power. It's a really intelligent response, but it places our control and our sense of safety and our sense of belonging onto other people. It's not safe. Those people are constantly changing. It's nothing to do with you. And it is possible to unlearn it and to do something different. And if we do that, then what we're left with is superpowers, really amazing, beautiful superpowers that we can call upon consciously. It's completely normal. That's why I call my work being too nice. Let's stop pathologizing it. Everyone has a response to this crazy world. And if this is yours, it was super smart and super intelligent. And it's now possible to learn to do something slightly different. And if it wasn't, I wouldn't be here today. So there you go. That's my very quick 20-minute flight through the fawn response.
Thank you, Erika. That was amazing. And what a great way to start this. So I can see lots of people were finding that great as well. Insightful, inspiring. Thank you so much. Wonderfully insightful. So yeah, actually, Erika's going to be doing several more sessions as well if you really like her. And if you're nice, you'll go along. No, I'm just being silly.
And it's fine if you don't like me because I've cultivated the ability to be disliked. So.
Yes, and actually on that, what were your key takeaways, everyone here? Like, I think it's really nice to just for your own learning and actually for Erika to hear as well. Is there anything that's a key takeaway? You can either type it in the chat if you want Erika to know it as well, or if it's private, keep it to yourself and write it somewhere just so you have something you can bring away from this session and out into your life. Like I said, there's going to be plenty of sessions. Anyone watching this on the replay, if you're someone who's got access to all of them, that's fine. You're going to be able to see all of these sessions. And if you're someone who's just got the replay of one of these 3 sessions, I hope you get something from it as well. And anyone here, what I would say as well is stop and think of someone who would really benefit from this event, either this particular session or any of the other ones, and think what would be the best way to tell them about it. Could you WhatsApp them, message them, SMS, give them a call, and actually go ahead and invite them right after this session. I'll post a link there, but we want as many people as possible to benefit from this, so please do share this widely, and not just widely as in put it on a Facebook post where no one will see it, but actually share it with someone who you know would get something from it. So that's something we really want everyone to sort of be able to do. And if you did want to learn more about superpowers or ways to heal trauma and all that, of course, we also have a product in this stuff. I'll post a link in case you want to check it out, but I'm not going to go into that too much. I just want everyone to benefit from the learning here. And yeah, so there's a lot more on superpowers as well. And finally, take care of yourself after this session as well. So we know that there's people here probably know a lot of different methods as well, whether it's like TRE or MDR or somatic experience or anything like that. So there's a lot of trauma stuff along with what we're offering, but whatever you need to do take care of yourselves after each of these sessions. So whether it's going for a walk outside, whether it's just spending time with loved ones, whether it's just having a good old meal or anything like that, just always, take care of yourselves with that. And Erika, before we close as well, I'll just check. So there's a few cool things coming through in the chat. So I might just read a couple of them. The thought that they're actually good things: sensitivity, listening skills, reading a room, think of them as superpowers. Yeah, that's a benefit. Thank you so much. Turn what is considered a weakness into a superpower. Sounds and is wonderful. So yeah, it's a really nice reframe on all of this. And Erika, is there any sessions? I'm going to share the schedule, but are there any sessions that people should really check out, or any more sessions that you're doing that you think would be linked to this?
Yeah, so one of the ways niceness can show up in a less full-on way. So some of the women that I work with, they sort of say like, oh, I didn't really think I was too nice. I thought that was my mum. Like they can see the pattern changing down the generations. But then we come to like sharing their work with the world, or sharing, marketing themselves, promoting themselves, or really, and then it's like, oh no, oof. So it's interesting how it shows up more subtly. So I'll be doing a session with Mark later in the week around how trauma can affect your ability to really promote and market yourself. That should be a good session. I'm on again in an hour with Mark doing the different responses that we have. I mean, he and I have a different trauma response, you may have noticed. So we'll be on next doing that. And then I've got some beautiful sessions coming up around self-esteem, trauma and self-care. Oh, there's loads. I mean, this week is amazing. So yeah, there's lots to tune into.
Yeah, thank you. As you can see, anyone who's here live, you'll see you have the all access pass. You have access to this entire schedule. There's also some sessions in German as well, if you happen to be a German speaker. So a lot of different stuff. Do share it with anyone who would benefit from any of these sessions. What we've tried to do here is do something that's specific to everyone. So we didn't want anyone to miss out. We didn't want like general sessions, but it's like stuff around being nice, so there could be the exact opposite patterns. Like I think Patricia's doing one on like sort of fight responses and anger and different things like this, and there's fear and anxiety sessions and all of that. So there's stuff for everyone, and take it easy. Just watch the ones that are applicable to you, and take care of yourself. Otherwise, we've got a session coming up in 30 minutes with David Trelevin, and he's looking at how trauma can show up in mindfulness practices. So you can join us back here for that. And
can I share a final thought? Can I share a final thought? I don't know if we're doing that this time. I just want to say, like, if you're starting to work with this trauma pattern, just remembering coming back in the body and coming up. That will change a lot. So if you find yourself out, lost in other people's experiences, seeing if you can catch that and just move yourself back in space, that helps you come back into connection with your experience, separate from others. And then just coming up a little bit. So up into powerfulness rather than down into feeling. And you'll start to see something start to shift, I promise you. That's it.
Great. Thank you, Erika. Thank you, everyone. If you're a mindfulness meditation type person, we might see you back here in 30 minutes. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Erika.
Oh, you're
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.